Welcome back to the Good Dude, Good Dad podcast. I'm Jordan.
And I am Benjamin.
And we are back in our studio after a couple weeks of being on the road, kind of.
Kind of the road. Long road. Work road. Yeah.
The work.
Yep.
Lonely road.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, man. I'm tired. We don't have a guest again this week, but Jordan is going to share. I shared this week, technically, or last week's episode, of something that I was kind of going through with my wife, and something that we're going to work through and talk about. Nothing in a bad way if you didn't hear it, more of just like a life decision, and one that we both want to pray about. But it was rad because Jordan sent the episode to her before we actually released it, and she told me she cried.
Yeah, she told me that too.
Yeah, and she just was not that I want to make it about this, but the cool thing about sharing that story and being kind of like vulnerable with it, because it's a big deal. But she didn't know, I don't want to use this word, but she didn't know how deeply it meant to me that I, for lack of better terms, didn't show up for her in that time.
Yeah.
Unintentionally, obviously. It's not like I was like, yeah, no, never, it just was like again, my defense mechanism was to just kind of laugh it off or turn it into a joke, or obviously be like, we've talked about this, you knew.
Yeah.
But obviously
I
took it serious.
Yeah, well, part of the reason I sent it to her right away is that I knew you had said something in that podcast. You're like, she was almost afraid of how I would react, which I get where you're coming from. I was like, you're like, this. It sounds silly, but I totally get what she's coming from too. And I'm like, once you have time to process and you guys have that conversation, I know that she wouldn't necessarily get to see that rawness of how you reacted. So I was like, it'd be cool. I know it's going to mean a lot to her, for her to see how you would react right as it's kind of happening. And secretly I was like, Devin, you need to chill, bro. If I text you that I'm going to send you something, you can't tell Ben right away.
She told me when I got home from jiu-jitsu.
Like instantly. But yeah, I was stoked. That episode was super awesome. We've got a lot of good feedback actually from that. So
awesome. Well, Jordan's going to share something today.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what it is.
Yeah. No. So we're, you were talking last week about, how that, and actually led to a conversation that Caitlin and I had, like the night after our podcast came out. So, cause Caitlin listened to it. She got to, I gave her like the afternoon to go hang out, cause I was home that day. And she was listening to it, and came home, and we were like, as soon as she came home, I had to run off to go help a buddy out. I was like, hey, is it okay if I leave? She's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, I can tell you're kind of annoyed. Like, I know you're saying yeah, and I know you're saying yeah for the right reason, because this dude really needs it, and he needs me right now. But I can tell there's something bothering you. Like, you sure? Like, I will stay home. She's like, no, go. And I was like, okay. Like, last chance. She's like, yeah, just go. And I'm like, okay. So I left, and I was like, I know, like, you just know, like, you're a married dude. You know, there's gonna be a conversation later.
Oh yeah.
You're just like, okay, we're just gonna bookmark that, because that's gonna be coming back. And it's not. I mean, we talked about it too. It wasn't a negative thing. Like, I actually clearly did need to go, and she recognized that I clearly needed to go, and she apologized later that night, and she was like, hey, I'm sorry for the way that I sent you off. She's like, I sent you off kind of in a annoyed mood. Her in an annoyed mood. And I was like, it's okay. But yeah, she just told me, she was like, hey, like, I understand. I'm so glad that you left. You needed to go do that. I'm so glad that you're putting your effort and time into the kids. I'm so glad you're putting your effort and time into work. I'm so glad we're trying to get, you're trying to get back in shape, and trying to get back to jiu-jitsu. I mean, unless you ask Ben, and then he'll say I don't ever go. But she was like, I just feel like you're giving all this time out to everybody else, and I don't feel like I'm just you and me getting enough. And I sat there for a second. I was like, so she sent it to me in a text message while I was at my buddy's house. And I was like, okay, well, I can only handle one crisis at a time. It's just the way my brain works. So I read it, and it just kind of sat in the back of my brain. And, I got home, and I told her, I was like, you know what, you're right. I have been pretty bad about that. We have a lot of, stuff going on right now behind the scenes, with family, and we have a lot of different stressors compressing on around us right now. Everyone does.
Yeah.
We're not anyone new, but stuff especially that's affecting Caitlin a lot. On top of having postpartum, on top of having 3 kids, on top of not sleeping well right now, and I told her, I was like, hey, I am sorry. We usually have our nights together. Once the kids go to bed, kind of like you guys. Once the kids go to bed, but we've had Paisley's doesn't sleep. She's a baby, right?
Yeah.
She's a 4-month-old. I can't believe I'm saying that. 4 months. 4-month-old. But she's there with us, and it's not like we really get to. We watch a show together, but she's usually breastfeeding and kind of off on another chair, and I'm watching the show, but I'm also on my phone. And granted, I don't quite understand that if we're watching a show, why I can't be on my phone. Apparently, there's if you're not watching the show with your girlfriend, wife, spouse, whatever it is, it's different than if you're sitting there watching a separate screen. I don't know, but apparently it is. But I told her, I was like, you're right. I just haven't prioritized our time.
Yeah.
And I haven't made sure that we could, that we could do something just us, or we could have, really, I haven't really initiated better, good quality conversations other than when I'm on the drive home and we're on the phone for 20 minutes, you know? I was like, I haven't made sure I've been so trying to fill your tank by letting you leave when I am home, go out and get a little bit of alone time, that I'm not thinking about, hey, you need alone time with you and I also. Mm-hmm. So, we both sat there and we both apologized. One for how she apologized for how she reacted, and I apologized for not just not prioritizing her a little bit better. And we also understood that, we came to a conclusion at that point, it's part of this is just the season of life we're in, mm-hmm. and you guys have been there, and other people, if you have kids, I know you guys have been there, that it's just, it's not that, there's just a lot of things going on, and trying to balance. I've kind of, as I'm getting older, I'm realizing there's no such thing as balance in your life. I really don't believe there is. I believe that and I might be wrong, and you can, feel free to step in, but I feel like life is constantly, something's going to go out of balance, and then you adjust it, and then usually something else it'll cause something else to get knocked out of balance, mm-hmm. and then you try to break. And so you're constantly like a gyroscope. I think of it like, you ever seen those spaceships in space, and they have the little tufts of air that are trying to get them to I feel like that's life. You're constantly making micro adjustments to try to stay as level as you can, and to do the best you can within, the parameters of what's important to you. Yeah. And so, right now, my big out of balance is alone time with Caitlin. We don't really get much date time, if ever. There's a while there we were able to go out after the kids went to bed for 30 minutes because we had someone at the house that would help watch once the kids were asleep. But, we can't do that right now, and I haven't been to church in a while just because of life. There's because I'm having to work the cafe right now, and so that's. Excuse me.
He's still sick.
Yeah, I'm still a little under the weather. But yeah, anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. It's not, we talk about our experiences and what matters to us, and our thoughts, and what's going on in our brain, and our perspective and views on things like that too. And we always say, hey, we're not perfect. We're still working on things. We still mess things up, and I messed up on just not paying attention to the needs of my wife a little bit better, mm-hmm. And I always talk about, there's a great question to ask your wife, hey, how can I love you better? And I was giving that advice to other people, but I hadn't asked that for a while.
Yeah.
And so now I'm trying to figure that out.
You also have to remember that, and this is for every person in every season of life, there is a balance. It's not an equal balance, mm-hmm. but I do fully believe life does have balance, in the sense of, you create your balances, right? They're not going to equal,
Right.
They're not going to be, on the same playing field, but there is a balance that makes you who you are in your life, right? So like your faith is probably the biggest,
It is.
quote unquote, weight in this scale. And then your family is the next biggest. And then your work, and then your whatever, your fitness, your hobbies, right? So all of that makes the balance of who you are. And so I do think there is balance in that, but there's not equal balance. There's not perfect balance.
That's a better
There's
that's a better explanation.
yeah, and when your balance gets out of rhythm, that's when you're constantly having to adjust, or like you said, something falls off because you're prioritizing something else. Like, but there's still that balance that makes you who you are. I think the people that don't have those big weights in their life are the ones that are out of balance. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean it in a, if you're lost, right? Or you're searching for your purpose, or you're searching for something, it's because that weight is missing. Whatever it is, you need to put if it's your career, if it's your spouse, if it's your kids, if it's your faith, if it's your fitness journey, whatever it is that makes you as like a human, that's what makes you tick, right? That's what makes Jordan separate from Ben. And I think if we view it in that way, it's a lot easier to put these big weights in places that the little ones work around.
Right.
But I think you are right in the sense of there's no such thing as like a perfect balance. Like when people say work-life balance, that's in Southern California in today's world, that's impossible, right? But your balance for like what makes you, I think is what you should probably focus on more, and myself included, every person listening, that's what we should focus on, not the balance of comparison, because of social media, not the balance of I should be here, but I'm only here. I think finding the balance that makes you who you are and the best version of you and who you are is what matters. And then to just speak a little encouragement to you, dude, of the not putting your wife first sometimes. Like I've been there 100%. I think it's something, obviously you recognizing it and understanding it is like a huge step, but I also think you have to give yourself grace in this season of life as well. And so does Caitlin. Caitlin has to give you grace and herself grace, both of you.
Yeah.
You both need it because, dude, it took us, and every couple's different, right? Some will pop out that third kid and be back to normal like right away. Some it could take a year, a couple years. Some it could take a month. I think finding your new balance, or your new family balance, your new self balance is something that you can't necessarily put a time frame on, but being aware of it is obviously like step one.
Yeah.
Step two is keep finding those little moments, like you said, after bed. Like being on your phone, I see that. I could see for sure. Even though you're watching a show, her making a big deal of you being on your phone is because you're not being fully present.
It's true.
Like you're not. And I do it. And it annoys me when Devin does it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we're both sitting on our phone unintentionally because you're just catching up, right?
Right.
That balance that you're trying to recreate, you're just catching up for the day. The kids are down. I've been at work all day. Devin's been momming all day. And now you're just trying to like catch up with the world and your friends and see what's up, right? And you aimlessly scroll in this freaking stupid social media world that sucks us all in. And then before you know it, it's been 45 minutes. You both didn't say anything to each other and the episode's over.
Yeah.
And so I fully get that.
Yeah.
Because it's just more of being present. Like you're present, but you're not present, right? Because you're in social media land. And so I fully get that because I do it. And then, the memes you see, like when it's like the meme of like the wife's on her phone all day, and the second you pick your phone up, all of a sudden it's like bad now.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, what? That's such a real
Sets her
thing.
phone down and is like, excuse me.
Yeah, like I know you haven't been on your phone all day, but I'm off now. I think it's more of like a presence thing, dude.
It is.
And again, you got to just give yourselves grace because life's crazy as it is.
Right.
Having 3 kids is crazy as it is. Like in trying to just figure out that balance is super freaking difficult. And I think one thing though that you're more aware of than I was at this stage, because we're like only like a year and a half ahead of you guys in the sense of like kid ages. But when we had Walker, that was like the toughest like season of our life in the sense like all of our kids were sick. like in this perpetual, just like super sick. And then I got crazy sick and just dealing with it. And you're just like, it was so easy to get complacent and in this new mindset of, oh, this is just our new normal right now, right? This is our current season. It's just a season. And yes, while it is just a season, it's really easy to suck yourself into that season and for you to fully believe that, oh, this is my life now. But it doesn't have to be. And I think that's where that balance, you know, becomes a thing where you're like, oh, I might need to shift this weight over a little bit for now. And then I'll shift this weight here until I can recreate like that balance that makes me and my family us.
Yeah.
But dude, yeah, the grace component, man, because Devin and I have been there.
Yeah.
You know, like there's times where I still feel like I don't prioritize her enough. And it's not because of a lack of trying. It's more of this is the quote unquote season we're in. Like if we don't have somebody to watch our kids, what do you do?
Exactly.
But there are little things we can do, right? As husbands, keep that little, you know, romantic spark alive. Like have like a charcuterie board like hidden somewhere. And then when the kids are down, it's like, even if it's freaking 30 minutes, right?
Right.
I'm remembering these things for myself too, as I'm saying them out loud, but it's just like those little things, like, you know, the leaving, and I know you do this because I've seen Caitlin post about it, but leaving a sweet little note on her coffee cup in the morning, and just those little moments where you can constantly try to like plug in and be like, hey, no, you're still very much my priority. This unfortunately is just the season of life we're in, you know, but having the grace component is the biggest thing I can say to both of you, because Devin and I have been there.
Yeah.
And we still get it, and sometimes we're finally just coming out of it, dude.
Yeah.
Like, we were just talking about this but for the last 6.5 years, Devin's been pregnant and or breastfeeding. So we have had very limited alone time outside of when they're down for the night. And now outside of the nights I train, we have every night together. And it's like, even though we're on the couch or watching a show, you know, I need to constantly remind myself, yo, be present or do something special, do something cool. Order whatever, order ramen and you're having like a mini date night while you're watching a movie, you know?
Yeah.
Or, and I know you do this too, but the little things, like, just don't take them for granted. But the last night I really wanted to go get beers with the guys after. And, usually I don't like to go because I feel guilty that I was gone all day, and I want to be able to get home to, one, spend time with Devin, but two, to also like help with whatever was not done in the house.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want her doing that on those days. Like, it's just something I don't want. And so I rushed home from work, did school with Cash because I knew I could tell my daughter needed my time, and then I could tell Bo really needed time. So I took him on a walk around the neighborhood before I left, did all the dishes, did all these things. That way, you know, I could go and get beers without feeling guilty for, you know, not being present. But again, it just goes back to grace. Because even Devin said that to me last night. I was like, were you guys good? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, you need to stop being so guilty when you leave. And I was like, you're right. But I have chosen to want that for myself in this quote unquote season. And it's a big weight in my scale, right? Like, my family is right underneath my faith, right? It's literally my faith in Jesus, my family. And everything that my family represents is everything it takes, you know, cleaning, cooking, being present, walking, whatever, you know, that's what it takes. And this is the season that we're in, but it's different from the season that you're in now.
Yeah.
Cause like you said, she's either breastfeeding or, you know, there's a baby awake now. Like, once our kids are all asleep, they're all asleep. So we get, you know, from 8 to 8:30 p.m. to whenever. I mean, it's only, you know, Devin freaking falls asleep all the time, but it's only like, you know, an hour to 2.5 hours of us, but that's an hour to 2.5 hours that we didn't have 2 years ago.
Right.
And so I've just talked a lot, but that's where I was saying is just that grace, and that you are in this current season, but there's ways to, you know, to harness it. And like I said, you acknowledging it is more than most people will do.
Well, first of all, shout out to my wife so I don't get in trouble. She was like, you are doing a really good job of trying your best to hit all these points. You know, you're doing good. But yeah, it's having a new baby. Doesn't matter if it's your first, your second, your third, your fourth. Like, you go from that time together, because we were in that same spot where our kids were finally asleep. Most of Caitlin's pregnancy, finally our kids were asleep, and from asleep to when we went to sleep, we got us time. to, while she was pregnant, to her having Paisley, and then it immediately stopped. So we had just gotten used to it just as it was stopping. And so, yeah, we're just, we're navigating.
Yeah.
We're just navigating.
And just being graceful with each other
Yeah.
and yourselves. Because I'm still learning it, dude. Like I said, Devin literally last night said, you need to stop feeling so guilty when you leave. And I was like, yeah, but I feel guilty because being here and being present is what I want. But I also am very aware I do need that time as well.
Yeah.
Because that's what helps me balance my scale.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's I tend to beat myself up a lot too, which is something that I'm working on.
It's hard.
Also, so
It's hard because you're I don't know the right word. It's just, I can't think right now. But you're a taker carer, taker care. You know what I mean? You're
you're
you
trying
want
to say people pleaser. It's fine. Go ahead
take
and say
care
it.
of things. You're
Yeah.
trying. You're a
Caregiver.
yeah, or
Kinda.
a provider for your family and your friend group, right? Like you want to be able to do whatever it takes to be able to provide whatever it is in that moment, and to be able to let go of that sometimes is freaking hard.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And it's something that I think we'll constantly learn. But
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
We both are sharing the last 2 weeks worth of husband and dad. I don't want to use the word struggles, but husband and dad.
Just being husband and dads.
Yeah, and,
just part
and
of
the
it.
constant that it takes to
Yeah.
try and be a good dude and a good dad. It's constantly going to change. It's constantly going to evolve. It's constantly going to adapt. Like trying to be a good dude and a good dad is not just saying you are, right? It's owning it like we both just did. It's understanding it. It's trying to work on it. It's trying to figure it out. It's having conversations about it. It's being vulnerable. It's being whatever you want to be to, be your best version. But I appreciate you sharing, dude.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for sharing last week. I think this will actually be a lot. I think people are going to really enjoy these episodes because, obviously hearing other people's stories is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And you learn a ton of that. But the whole premise behind this was good dude, good dad, stuff that we're working through as a collective.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people can relate to your story and relate to my story. And, if there's anything that you guys would like to hear us talk about, drop us a DM, shoot us a text, email, whatever you want to do. We'd be happy to talk about it, discuss. Remember, it's just our opinions as two dudes trying to figure out life. But
Literally. Also, hopefully, this is a non-solicited ad.
Yeah.
But Dad Mode. It's a new company coming out. We're hopefully going to have the founder of this company on. It's going to be a virtual one, which Jordan's going to do because I don't know how to do any of that stuff because I'm dumb. But it's pretty cool. It's funny. We'll let him kind of talk about it. But what caught my attention was their branding and kind of their slogans. I thought it was kind of clever. It's something along the lines of dads that clean more get laid more. But it's pretty funny.
you're not wrong.
It's sandalwood and suede scent. It's a cleaner product, but this was not intended. I just took it out of my car because something was leaking, and we set it in the studio, and here it is.
There you go.
But shameless plug for
Shameless plug.
Dad Mode.
Dad Mode cleaning products. Anyway, like, share, subscribe. Thank you guys for listening. Remember, be a good dude, be a good dad.